It is 6 o'clock. It's time to call the Sherwood City Council meeting to order. At this time, I would like to ask Sarah Bales, Seven Hills Methodist Church pastor, to come forward and lead us in prayer, please.
Friends, let us pray. Most gracious and holy God, as we gather here this evening, we are grateful. We are grateful for the gift of this day you have given us. We are grateful for those that you place in our lives and those whom we love. We are grateful for this great community that we get the joy of living in. We pray as we gather here tonight that you would grant us wisdom, discernment, and grace as we talk and as we engage in making decisions and discussions that impact our daily lives in this community. We give you thanks for those gathered here that have felt your call and served this city in the example of Christ. We ask that we may be reminded of Christ our Lord and serve with a willingness and a joy and a care for our fellow brother and sister. We ask that your Spirit be with us and bless this time together. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please. Brooks. Here. Harmon. Lilly.
Here.
Min.
Here.
High. Here. Sanders.
Here.
Williams. Here. Broderick. Here. Approval of minutes of the regular meeting on September 23rd, 2019 is transcribed. So moved.
Second.
Williams. Aye. Broderick. Aye. Sanders.
Aye.
McMinn.
Aye.
Brooks. Aye. Lilly.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon.
Aye.
You have in your packet September 2019 financials. Are there any questions or discussion? Comments? Hearing none. Committees and commission. Advertising Promotion Commission. We did meet, and the minutes are in the packet if anyone has any questions. Civil Service Commission. Parks and Recreation Committee.
We did meet. The minutes are in the package. I have no question. Yes.
Charlie.
My mic's not. Oh, now I'm on. We did meet, and the minutes are in your packet. If anybody has any questions, I guess everybody. Let's see, is that in there? Yeah, everybody saw the news about Sonny Jensen, if they didn't know it already, in there. Sonny Jensen, our Parks Rec director. You want that? You going out there at the last meeting?
No.
Okay, well, it's in the minutes now. Sonny, you want to tell everybody? All right. How long have you been here? 28 years. Sonny Jensen, who's been our Parks and Rec director for 28 years, announced at our Parks and Rec meeting that he would be retiring January 30th, 1st of 2020. And I think that he deserves a round of applause right now for the one he's done. Our next meeting, if we have business, will be the second Monday of the month at 6 o'clock at Bill Harmon Rec Center in the Magnolia.
Very good. Thank you. Human Resources Committee.
We did not meet this month. We will be meeting November 7th, 5:30. Bill Harmon.
Very good. Planning Commission.
So the next item started at 5.
Yes, if we have two that have signed up for comment regarding this upcoming item. I'd like for you to go ahead and make your comments before it's read. First one, Mr. Don Harris, followed by Mr. Williams.
Hello, everybody. We've talked about this in the past two meetings. I'm still asking you not to vote for this. I did check with the Highway Department. They have not made any plans to improve the traffic situation over there, whether it's the end or where the exit is. That was not discussed previously. but it's only going to get worse. It can only get worse. And the safety of the residents in that area and the daycare center is the most important thing in doing this. So I'm asking you not to allow at this time to change the C4. This is a unique situation compared to others, a very unique situation. Pardon my voice. And the fact that the way it will increase traffic quite a bit when they do an expansion on this. It's just a bureaucratic thing, the way it is now. And I'd appreciate if y'all would not allow this change at this time. Maybe in the future, but not at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
To the Honorable Mayor Young and the Honorable Council members, Madam, I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Bob Williams, and I've been a resident of 3 Pleasure Lane since 1975. Pleasure Lane, when I and the person I bought the property from cleared Pleasure Lane, I paid half and he paid half, and now Pleasure Lane was named originally Williams Lane. My wife and one daughter at that time resided there. It was my home of record. I was at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and other places. But I started writing letters home, and they started returning. As after a couple of years, and Williams Lane had been renamed Pleasure Lane. Having said that, I've been in the neighborhood 30 plus years. And just to share with you, southbound from Jacksonville, exiting on exit number 5, that traffic is coming off of there at 50 or 60 miles per hour. As you come to the U-Haul, you have to make a sharp turn to the west. You have vehicles coming behind you at a great speed. A few weeks ago, in front of U-Haul, in the Citgo service station, there was a wreck. Overturned vehicle from the freeway in front of U-Haul in the Citgo service station. A very bad wreck. About a month ago, Pleasure Lane and Warden Road, my lane, there was a 3-car vehicle accident, I believe, with engines. Having said that, the area in question is a one-way for about a half a block. U-Haul is 2 ways to get to it. Exit 5, 67, 167, southbound, and then Trailhead, before you have to come around. It was making pride to me coming around Trailhead and to get to the U-Haul. There's a daycare center, 2 apartment complexes. Trailhead northbound off of Indian Head Drive, kids play in that little short distance coming around to Warden Road.
It is my understanding that you all will not only build one story storage bins, they will go one or two high. I heard that. But I just wanted to share,
Mr. Williams, you have 1 minute left in your time.
I just wanted to share with the council members and the mayor the traffic situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
An ordinance amending the official zoning districts map and for other purposes regarding Powhatan Drive and Warden Road. That is the third reading.
To recap, this area is currently zoned C3, so the use could be there anyway. It could either be conditional. The owner of U-Haul franchise Arkansas met with staff that recommended that it be zoned C4, so rezoned C4. In the couple of years I've been on the planning commission, this is the first case where I have seen, honest to goodness, legitimate request for C4, because once the property is replatted to one lot, it will front Warden Road, which fronts 67 of its zoning code says is the appropriate location for C4. So in spite of the fact that the current property is all zoned C3 in that island, the planning commission recommended that it was consistent with the code and recommended that it be zoned C4.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes.
I did talk to Mr. Middleton this month, and I also talked to Mr. Hicks, who is the owner of the property, only because I wanted to make sure my memory was correct from 2 months ago when Mr. Hicks spoke about this land and made the comment that he could accomplish his goal with C3 conditional, so that any of those conditions that people might be concerned about, he would be willing to meet. And Mr. Middleton, I think you said that that was correct, but y'all did recommend, since we platted, before even to go ahead and go for the C4. So, it seems like we've actually recommended the C4. I totally agree with that piece that once it's the single plat, it's hitting that. But it could have been C3 conditional. And he still accomplished what he's trying to accomplish, which doesn't tend to give people heartburn so much sometimes as the C4. So I just move for a vote. Is that a motion? Motion, yes, ma'am.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Call roll, please.
Williams,
Aye.
Broderick, Sanders,
Aye.
McMinn,
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Aye, Harmon.
No.
I voted 62 to rezone the property. Am I correct on the count there? Was it 62? Okay. An ordinance permitting a conditional use in a zoning district and for other purposes. This is regarding 9121 Jackson-Bocato Road. First reading of the.
If you do Reader's Digest, the staff of this, it has history. The short history is that in February, the council, you all, rejected a proposal by the planning commission to rezone this, and sent it back to the planning commission and requested that we recommend provisions to the zoning code that would permit this to happen. It was clear to us that this is going to happen, but it needed to be legal. The commission met, and in July made a recommendation to the council, which was subject that they adopted by you to amend the zoning code to allow a public works facility as a conditional use in R1 with certain provisions. What the staff presented to the commission have actually submitted the recommendation, started to, we had it on the agenda for September, but we tabled it at their request. In October, we took it up, held the public hearing, and had some comments to the commission, as we have had all along. The staff recommendation with which the commission heard is that setbacks for the entire property be consistent with industrial standards, that there be a 50-foot vegetated undisturbed buffer on the south property line where it runs coterminous with the Brown subdivision, which is the Brown property, and 30 feet thereafter. And that, like I say, all the setbacks be consistent with industrial standards. The ordinance, the zoning code already requires that it comply with certain industrial standards, that being that there can't be any light reflecting on surrounding residential properties, that any trash must be hidden, and that there not be excessive noise, vibration, or odor, and that's it. So the commission thought that these were appropriate conditions for the approval of this property and recommend approval for that.
Before we move any further, we have two that have signed it that would like to have public comment. Ms. Natalie Brown, and followed by Anthony Brown.
Yes. So again, this year I'm going to keep obviously having to come back here each month because my concern is that 9 months ago I pointed out the conflicts and issues with the zoning code and the placement of this property with putting it in as the placement and planning of putting this property in a residential area and how it conflicted with the zoning code and the Vision 2040 plan. To fix that, you obviously just simply had the code rewritten to fit your own plans, not the plans of the citizens. I've pointed out the increased traffic to the area, the drop in property values to neighboring residents that don't make planning sense, and that the current facility is going to be built anyway, or this facility is going to be built anyway. So, but what I wanted to point out tonight was that I keep getting reassurances after each meeting that the Planning Commission and the Council will work with us in what's referred to as the Brown subdivision, and that the city will meet industrial code requirements and make sure that these requirements are met. However, in the 9 months and then going through this process, I don't feel like that is the case. I have felt helpless in this process. I have felt unrepresented because you see, I have 2 council members that represent my ward, but one of those council members hasn't ever even reached out to me, hasn't ever even introduced himself to me, hasn't returned a phone call, hasn't returned an email, hasn't ever even come up and shook my hand. Other council members have, but that council member hasn't. So how am I supposed to feel like I'm going to make sure that I'm represented in this process? I don't feel like I will be. So I feel that this council will do for themselves and do the bare minimum required for me and the notice in the Brown subdivision. I do say again that planning this public works facility in a residential area doesn't make sense. The citizens have realized it. One of the planning commissioners has realized it. You want it. I realize it's going to happen. But I just want to make sure that the requirements of the industrial, I know it's going to happen. I get that. I want to make sure that the requirements of the industrial zoning code are met. I realize that I'm the closest resident to it, and the residents around it have spoken out, but I'm the only one, my husband and I are the only ones that are consistently here month after month at Planning Commission and City Council, trying to make sure that we feel represented and our voices heard, because our home is going to be affected, our children are going to be affected. We moved to Sherwood to raise our children. We moved back here from North Little Rock to raise our children and it be our forever home. And unfortunately, I don't want to raise my children anymore in this city. So thank you.
I want to echo what my wife said about the council members. I do thank the ones of you who have at least shook my hand and said hi and have offered words of encouragement. However, I also want to point out the fact that I had one member tell me back in January when I called, it's going to happen. Just basically get over it. We will help on the tail end make sure it's minimal impact. I haven't seen that. There has been no measures put into place to make this minimal impact. I sat right here in this room a few months ago and watched a meeting where city council was ready to run a business out of town over a moving truck in a parking lot. I'm going to have garbage trucks next door to my house. Where's our representation here? When I lose property value, where do I recoup that at? Is that a lawsuit against the city? What's it going to take for me to maintain my property value? If I can't trust this council to help mitigate the risk to my home and my property value, when I have a complaint about this facility in 6 months or in 6 years, where's the trust that those complaints are going to be handled accordingly? Is it going to take another lawsuit in order to, get complaints handled? I mean, what's it going to take here? My wife and I have been fighting this since January. Going to the planning commission meetings is like talking to a brick wall. There has been zero response. The only way the 50-foot buffer was added, it wasn't because we wanted it, it's because it was mentioned in city council. Every other month we've been there, it's been deaf ears. Like my wife said, one of the members agreed with us. It doesn't need to go there. I do agree that, yes, public works needs to be relocated. But moving it from one residential area to another one is just moving the problem further out of town. It's moving it from the general public's view to my view in a residential area. I want to see this council put the stipulations on there that you put on everybody else. Give it the attention you gave to cell phone tax. Give it the attention that you put towards U-Haul. Show the effort. The only thing we're seeing is deaf ears. I don't know what it's going to take to get someone's attention or to get someone to listen to us. But I'm here to tell you, I will do what it takes. I will reach out to whoever I need to reach out to and do whatever I need to do to get the attention this deserves. Once again, this is not the right place for this to be. Thank you.
The ordinance has been read one time.
I would like to make a comment. In hindsight, I don't know if this is indeed the best option out there. This was the option that was presented to us after the mayor and the public works director looked around. The one thing that I would ask is that we make sure that that road is completed, since we have safety hazards and flooding issues on that road that we wouldn't want vehicles and so forth to go through. If we could complete that road before this process takes place in terms of relocating public works. I understand that public works does need to be relocated, and also think that the animal shelter needs that area. But given the safety concerns that made that road be so important to have redone and that bond issue, I just really think that that needs to be the first step before we move public works out there.
What's the pleasure of the council?
If there's no motion, then it will go to next month for the second.
Very good. Next item, Senior Citizen Committee.
We did have a meeting on October the 15th. All members were present. We got our new Ford 2019 van in. The cost after the grant was $9,131. The total cost for the van was $45,655. So we got quite a bit of savings on that grant for the Senior Adult Center. A couple little issues that came up, wanting to start a grief support group at the Senior Adult Center and looking for a Tai Chi instructor. Charlie, I think your name was mentioned today.
Parks and Rec.
Absolutely.
Sonny's retiring. He needs the job, his wife said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I had on the
Thank you.
Senior Adult Center.
I would like to say Robert and his staff does a great job of maintaining that fleet of vehicles. Just historically, the Senior Citizens Department has done a great job with keeping previous directors of always getting a grant for vehicles. So I wish we could do that on every other vehicle that we purchase in the city. Sherwood Wastewater Treatment Committee, Street Committee.
Street Committee did meet. The unapproved minutes are in your package. We are getting awfully close to turning dirt on the Coles extension, which is really exciting. I'm glad to see that. Another thing to announce is that leaf pickup will begin November 1st, I believe. Did I get that right, Brian? 4th, November 4th. And we'll run through the end of January the way we always have. So with that, there is an ordinance on the agenda from the Street Committee this evening.
An ordinance amending the 2019 street fund budget, appropriating funds and for other purposes. First reading.
Kevin, can you tell us where they're being appropriated from? I think it was left off.
Well, so this is actually coming out of reserve funding that's already in the street budget or in the street fund. Okay, it's not in the budget. This is after we got the bids back from doing the overlays throughout the city. We ran over what we had originally budgeted. We've got Round Top Road is in really bad shape, and if we go ahead and add this, we can go ahead and get that area, milled and overlaid, and so that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Do we need to just add then at the end of that from the street fund reserves, since we're appropriate? It looks like we're moving it.
That works for me. I mean, the money's there. I mean,
it already has it in there.
It's in the account. It's just not in the budget.
But it's in the title says amending the 2019 street fund budget, appropriating funds. So the language is already there. It simply needs to be passed.
I'd like to waive it and move it for second reading.
Second. Williams.
Aye.
Broderick. Aye. Sanders.
Aye.
McMinn.
Aye.
Brooks. Aye. Lilly.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon.
Aye.
An ordinance amending the 2019 street fund budget, appropriating funds and for other purposes. That's the second reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place on third reading.
Second.
Williams.
Aye.
Broderick. Aye. Sanders.
Aye.
McMinn.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
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 Harmon.
Aye.
An ordinance amending the 2019 street fund budget, appropriating funds and for other purposes. That's the third reading.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Williams.
Aye.
Broderick. Aye. Sanders.
Aye.
McMinn.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
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 Harmon.
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1952 to include including the regulation of parking of vehicles on all city rights of way. That's the second reading from last month.
I'd like to substitute the ordinance edits that are in today's packet for the one that was read first time last month.
Second.
Williams.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
McMinn.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
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 Harmon.
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance 1952 to include regulating the parking of vehicles in all city rights of way and pertaining to the removal of vehicles by the city. That's the first reading as amended.
May I make some comments? Mayor. This particular ordinance, what we're trying to do with this ordinance, because it was confusing with the substitution. At the present time, the authority given under this ordinance 1952 is only regarding to the streets. So if an individual parks in their yard, that's not an issue, possibly, but it's when they're parking in the right of way that may cause a danger or a safety issue. The police department, and I did meet with Chief Bedwell about this, there are some incidents on hills, particularly in some curbs, where people are parking all four wheels in their front yards, and people cannot see going down the street. In those incidents, either the police department, the planning commission, or the engineering department, under these edits, would bring that to the city council, which is already the way it is in 1952, under section 3 there, the no parking zones, and they would recommend to us a resolution that, let's just use my street, which is to say from Coolhurst from the 300 block to the 600 block, no one should be parking in the right of ways. And if that's the case, because of safety issues, then we would approve it. And a no parking sign regarding that would be placed there. We know we have no parking signs on the streets already, but those are talking about streets. It's when they make blind spots by parking in the right of ways. That's all it is. The city council has the final say if that sign goes up. It can only be brought to us at the recommendation of those three entities, again, per 1952. That cleans it all up. Because at the present time, if people are parking there, the police have no authority, because our current ordinance, 1952, only talks about the street. So what the ordinance in front of you in your packet, both as an introduction and the first whereas, and in section 1, it merely adds in all city right-of-ways. That gives the police the authority to keep our residents safe in those regards. The second part of that, which is under section 2, in meeting with someone who is on our fire commission, on our fire commission, they brought it to my attention when I asked for any comments or any fixes, that in the present language it says this: any vehicle creating an immediate traffic hazard or obstruction and has not been moved in 24 hours. They recommended that within 24 hours, if it's an immediate traffic hazard, why are we giving someone 24 hours? So they just asked for that piece to be redacted, which is what's in the section 5 in front of you. And instead of saying if they shall be towed, that they may be towed. So that section 5 is a new edit from last month. That's the explanation of what the ordinance is about.
So in section 5, where we're talking about, an immediate traffic hazard, the way I'm understanding it now is that the person or groups that would designate that as an immediate hazard would be the police department, the engineering department, or the planning commission. Is that accurate?
That's how I understand it.
That's not what it says.
The concern that I have is that someone gets upset at a neighbor or what have you, and they deem it an immediate hazard, and all of a sudden the vehicle is towed, and I don't think that's the appropriate action that needs to be taken there. So I want to make sure who has the authority to deem that an immediate hazard with potential car removal.
I don't see the language that you're talking about on which you presented us.
It's in the ordinance, original ordinance in front of you, 1952, section 5.
Right, and I'm looking at that replacement, but once again, on that original, I'm not seeing where it goes through that process, especially when it's immediate. The other thing that I'm concerned about is you've got on section 1 amended to include parkings on all vehicle right-of-ways. Well, on all city right-of-ways. So all city right-of-ways includes the first 12 feet in front of everybody's yard, the first 12 feet in a driveway. And, as I brought up before, we've got, we have narrow streets. We've got where people have to be able to park sometimes in what's designated as a city right-of-way. And under state law, we already have where if any vehicle is causing any type of traffic hazard, it's already against the law.
But this would allow us to
Post
only
signs.
do it on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
If there's a section of the city like Club Road. We've got the hills. If somebody keeps parking on front of a house on Club Road in the right of way, and it keeps the neighbors from being able to back out because they can't see, then we could designate that one section, that one 200-foot section of Club Road, no parking in the right of ways, and they'd have to come to the council and designate that one 200-foot section of Club Road as no parking in the right of ways. It's not city.
It's not all inclusive of every right of way in the city. Thank you, sir. It's actually saying this only occurs if it's been by one of those three entities that work and do their job to keep our residents safe, that they bring to us that they have deemed that this parking in this area appears to be unsafe for our residents. Would we as a council give them the authority to put a no parking sign on that right of way for the safety of our residents? That's all it says. It's not wholesale, and it's not every right of way, and it's not every street. It's those designated by this council. Your vote.
But I think your question was more to Section 5 on who.
Yeah, so I mean, I would like some clarification that who has the right to deem a vehicle is an immediate hazard. That was a concern of mine. The other was that we have people who use that right of way today legally and quietly, and then they would not be able to do that. And so that's kind of been cleared up, at least in my mind. But still, as far as an immediate traffic hazard, who makes that judgment?
In my opinion, the same entities that were mentioned in Section 3. If you need to write those three entities in there in Section 5, being it the police, engineering, planning commission, I'm open to that. If you want to scratch Section 5 edits, I'm open to that. What I'm not open to is omitting the safety issue on those right-of-ways.
Well, and I believe, and I think I saw the fire chief come in here, but I believe
He also just left.
Oh, we just left? Okay. For the fire, I believe there's a state statute that gives the fire chief or the highest ranking fire officer at any fire state, that gives them authority to move any vehicle that is impeding the fighting of a fire. For instance, it's in front of a fire plug or is impeding the moving of fire vehicles and things of that nature. And oftentimes fire trucks will simply ram into the cars, push them out of the way if they don't have any other recourse, and if they have the legal right to do so. And this saying that they can, that somebody can call the tow truck and have it immediately moved would save
a little money.
Save a little money on the owners of the vehicles as well. So I would say that fire officials would also, the fire chief.
Maybe public safety, if we just change that to public safety, because you have the police, you have the fire, and you also have the EMTs that if they were trying to get into a driveway, for instance, or get to a sidewalk to unload or to load a patient, they couldn't do that because the sidewalk was blocked or something like that. I think public safety might be a better way to put that.
Well, surely we're not going to wait for a tow truck to load up a patient to get them to the emergency room or to put out a fire.
No, the fire truck will
not,
take
but
them out.
Well, I'm just saying. The one thing too on here, we already have some no parking zones in the city, correct? Isn't that something
that's street? Without you putting in here rights of way, that's only streets. We only at the present time in this city have no parking on our streets, not when all four wheels are in the grass blocking the view of a resident backing out. That's the safety issue that's been brought and been agreed upon by our chief of police.
Well, my question is, I understand the police and the fire department, and I kind of go along with what Marina says.
Just because being on the MEMS board, I hear all kinds of stories that you would not believe.
Yeah, I understand that. And nothing against the engineering or the planning department, but I think the police would be the ones that you'd want to notify if there's a car blocking the view in a right of way. Engineering can't do anything about it. Planning can't do anything about it. Only the police really can be the ones to call a tow truck company and have them move a car if it's in violation. Is what I'm saying.
If you want to add the police in Section 5, I'm open to that.
I think they would be the one to make that determination themselves.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to make it if I was the planning department.
Would you say?
So I would edit, if you want to edit section 5 to say remove of vehicles creating immediate traffic hazard as deemed by our public safety groups, EMT, fire, police.
Well, I would just simplify that and say first responders.
Wonderful. There you go. So,
Is that a motion to amend the amendment?
motion to amend section
Second.
5.
Please call the roll on the amendment.
This is amending section 5.
Yes. Amending the proposed amendment.
Marina, you seconded that?
I did.
Williams?
Aye.
Broderick? Aye. Sanders?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Brooks? Aye. Lilly?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon?
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1952 to include regulating the parking of vehicles on all city rights of way and pertaining to the removal of vehicles of the city. This is after the second amendment, first reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place it on second reading as amended.
Second.
Williams?
Aye.
Broderick? Aye. Sanders?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Brooks? Aye. Lilly?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon?
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1952 to include regulating the parking of vehicles on all city rights of way and pertaining to the removal of vehicles of the city. That's the second reading as amended.
Move we suspend the rules, place the ordinance on third and final reading.
Second.
Williams?
Aye.
Broderick? Aye. Sanders?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Brooks? Aye. Lilly?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon?
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1952 to include regulating the parking of vehicles on all city rights of way and pertaining to the removal of vehicles by the city. That's the third reading as amended.
Move for adoption as amended. Williams?
Aye.
Broderick? Aye. Sanders?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Brooks? Aye. Lilly?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon?
Aye.
The resolution to clarify the name of the Sherwood Retirement Committee.
Just clarification. It kind of has it's two different conflicts. We discussed this at the last retirement committee, and so I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Williams?
Aye.
Broderick? Aye. Sanders?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Brooks? Aye. Lilly?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Harmon?
Aye.
An ordinance establishing the Sherwood City Council sitting as a committee of the whole as the budget committee for the city of Sherwood, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. First reading.
The reason why I'm bringing this about is just to make sure that we're doing things in the most transparent way as possible. Before, the way we would do the budget committee, it would be held in the mayor's office. When checking around in terms of how other cities do it, North Little Rock, Bryant, Jacksonville, etc., they're done in the evenings. They're done as a city council as a whole, and they're done in a public forum so that they're publicly recorded, can be publicly attended to, and so forth. I feel like this also gives all council members, this is one of the most important things that we do as council members. It's important that we all fully understand the budget. It gives us all equal opportunity in terms of input and influence over the budget versus, half of the city council just kind of opens it up, and it kind of brings us in line with what everybody else in Central Arkansas with cities our size and how they're opening up that process and making it transparent and allowing for more input.
Do we need an ordinance for this? Can we not just, the mayor, not just say, hey, we're going to change it to a certain time and let's put everybody on the committee. Why do we need an ordinance for it?
Because it establishes it once and for all so that it can't be willy-nilly changed in terms of, I know a lot of council members have jobs in which they have to take off work in order to get there. I know a lot of our citizens certainly can't, be there. I know that, we've been doing it a certain way for a while. This way, it just makes it an official process so that everybody, participates in it, sets that precedence, and it just kind of puts it out there. None of this takes place until after, the budget is presented. But that way, it's a clear line in terms of how things are handled.
I don't see a need that we need to have a ordinance to do exactly what you're asking. And where the mayor so chooses to put all 8 on this committee, I mean, even if it is an ordinance, we don't all have to show up. I mean, I'm sure we all will.
But that's just
We
it.
all
It
need
shouldn't
to.
be a chosen thing. It shouldn't be some people get to participate and some don't, and some get to have input and some don't.
Can I speak?
Thank you for asking.
As the longest serving council member up here, I remember back in the days when Bill Harmon was mayor, and everybody knows that Bill Harmon was like a dad to me, so I would never want to say anything bad about the man. And of course, he was your
Like a dad.
he was he was like your dad because he was your dad. But back when I came on the council, Bill Harmon had his 3 chosen people, and those 3 chosen were on the budget committee the 2 years that I was on the council that he was mayor. Those 2 of those people were from the same ward. They were all 3 males. We had 3 females on the council, but they were his 3 buddies, so to speak. And that's just, he just had his little budget committee, and he didn't even invite everybody to come. Back in the day, you knew they had met, and that was it. And I will say that at least the mayor now has opened it up to the fact that we have female and male representation. We have representation, one from each ward. I think everybody up here, with the exception of Councilmember Broderick, because he's a newly elected official, every single one of us has been asked and has served on the budget committee. I might agree with the fact that it might need to be held later, so the more people could attend and be publicly broadcast or publicly taped if people want to listen in or see what's going on. But none of us have ever been excluded from attending. We've all been notified when the budget committees met, so it's not like we couldn't attend. And even if we're all 8 on the committee, even for all 8 on the committee, that doesn't mean that we're all going to attend. I mean, obviously, some of us work past 5 o'clock. So if we meet at 5 o'clock, they're still not going to be able to be there. So I'm kind of with you. I don't know why we need an ordinance to say this. I think it's a great idea. But the mayor is the one who presents the budget, and if she wants us all 8 on there, and if we could all 8 be on there, she's not saying we can't be on there. So that's what I'm saying. Mayor.
Yes. When Councilman High mentioned that some other cities did this, I know they do as well, and I contacted some of them. None of them that I contacted do it by ordinance. They say we don't legislate it. It's just a procedure that we do. And they said sometimes 3 people show up, sometimes 7 show up, sometimes all 6 show up, or whatever, or 8. But it's not, the law says the mayor's in charge of the budget. It doesn't say the city council is in charge of finances and management, but the law says the word budget is only under her job description. And for her to include us is, because obviously there are some mayors that probably don't do anything except bring it to the city council on, in December. But I agree with Councilman Brooks is that I've always felt open to come to them and have done it the last 2 years, didn't do it in the first couple of years. But it's, if we want to be there when the committee meets, we'll be there. And the meetings are definitely announced, because I know that those announcements are sent out because the press shows up at them. So it's open to anybody, even all of you ladies and gentlemen in the audience. I almost said congregation, excuse me, in the audience out there. So I don't believe it has to be a law, an ordinance for the city. I think what we're doing works.
I contacted several myself, and they said that's something they don't do it by ordinance. In fact, one went as far as saying, "Why would y'all want to do the city's administrative business?" That doesn't mean that we don't need to know exactly what's going on, but that is the mayor's.
Well, first of all, we're not doing the administrative. And actually, if you look at state law 1458-203, It goes into great detail about how it is indeed the city council's role to pass and to approve
To
all
pass
budgets.
and approve.
That's right.
That's
So
true.
we need to know what we're passing and approving. And every council member, it should be an open process. It's not. These meetings haven't been recorded. They've been behind relatively closed doors. Public notice is generally put out 2 hours before. When I also spoke to mayors and other members, they were absolutely appalled the fact that we have been doing it the way in which we have been doing it. And that's why. If things had been different, if this had been an open process to where everyone could attend, it would be different. But that's not the way that it's been. And we need to be transparent. It's not just our money or your money, it's their money. And we're not putting this in a manner in which everybody gets to hear the questions and answers. And that's
I'm going to interject. I want to correct two things, maybe more than two that you said. We give more than a 2-hour notice. And I'm going to ask you this, and I'm not trying to be confrontational, but did you notify the press with any council member that you talked with today or in the last week?
First of all, I haven't talked.
I'm just asking
Well,
you.
Mayor, I have not spoken to any council members today.
Have you in the last week regarding anything you want to get passed? I'm just asking, okay?
Well, let me ask this
That's
question.
not
Well, first of
appropriate.
all, the recording started July of 2016. We have recorded all of our
Audio.
budget.
Audio recording.
They're all recorded. If no one has been excluded. If there's a problem with the venue, have you removed the venue?
When you have it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you are excluding people. And when meetings are set and council members say, I cannot come at this time, and they're set anyway that way, you are excluding people. Because not everybody has flexible jobs like that.
And then we address the time and not.
Yeah, I would agree.
I get that.
I would
get that.
agree on the time may not be the best time in the middle of the afternoon. I totally agree with that. I agree that they should be recorded as they have been, and the public, if they want to come. But I am with, again, I don't think we need to legislate this.
I'm confused. I've got to be honest, and don't take this too personally or whatever, but I expected this to be a lot of discussion on this ordinance, but complaining about this ordinance and complaining that it's an ordinance and that we don't need an ordinance is like complaining that it's like blaming the band for the Razorbacks' loss. I mean, it's just, she's trying to create a committee, and every committee we have is created by ordinance. So it's obviously going to be an ordinance. Okay, she's trying to create a committee, and every committee we have is created by ordinance. So that's why it's an ordinance. I mean, that's it.
What's our budget committee been in the past, Mr. Harmon?
The what?
What's our budget committee been in the past?
There was no budget committee until my dad started one. The one that she talked about that started. There was no budget committee prior to that. So what that means is that prior to my dad starting his duck hunting buddies as a budget committee, which is basically what he did. Prior to him starting his duck hunting buddies as a budget committee that would meet in the office and would help him narrow it down and then present a larger budget to the full council, it was done the way that Mary Jo's trying to get it set up and done now. The budget was prepared by the department heads and the mayor, and then it was presented to the entire council. It wasn't presented first to a microcosm of the council and then to the whole council. So what we do now is we prepare a budget, and then it's presented to 4 council members who go through and nitpick it and change things. Then it comes to the entire council, and the other 4 don't ever know what those changes were or what those comments were unless they attended that meeting. And so there are changes that are made, there are comments that are made, there are things that aren't attached to the budget that comes to the other 8, like, for instance, capital expenditures. When the first 4 look at it, the capital expenditures have attachments behind them that tell them exactly what those capital expenditures are for, a lawnmower or this or that and the other thing. When it comes to the 8, those attachments are gone. They don't know what those capital expenditures are for. So there's information that's deleted. There's information, there are things that those 4 are privy to that the 8 are not privy to. Okay? So there is a difference between the information that the 4 in the committee get and the information that the 8 get. So, I mean, and the information that these people get. There's a difference in the information that goes out because the newspaper's not going to put all that information in the newspaper. They'd snore. Everybody'd be snoring trying to read the Northwest Leader if you put everything in there that we talked about in that time. But there is a difference in the information that these people get and the that night that they wouldn't get otherwise. So, I mean, I have trouble criticizing an ordinance that's simply saying, let's include everybody and let's make it open where everybody in the public and the news media and everybody can see it and hear it. It's really hard to criticize that. I mean, and that's basically all this is saying. Let's include everybody, let's include the whole council, and let's bring it in the open where everybody can see it, instead of having it in a small office that wouldn't hold everybody and where you couldn't include any more people than you've got chairs and things of that nature. And that's really difficult to criticize. And, I hope that we're not criticizing this ordinance because of its awful. Nobody is sitting here criticizing this ordinance because of its awful.
I think what I heard Ms. Brooks say was that the mayor could do this without the ordinance, and it could be done I would simply say, let's say I'm hearing consensus, let's do this. But I think what I'm hearing more is but why have the ordinance? Is what I heard also from North Little Rock, and I talked to 2 of their aldermen or city council people today or last week also when this came out. So I asked them, y'all do this? They said, yes, but not by ordinance. And I said, you don't need to do it. Just ask the mayor that you'd like to do it this way. That's what I heard you guys say. And
Change the time, the location,
and have it open, and it's done.
So can I interject one thing? I mean, at this point, again, the state law requires that the mayor submit a budget to the city council for approval or rejection, whichever the case may be. How that budget is determined, in my view, unless the attorneys have something different, is at the sole discretion of the mayor. Whether she uses a committee to create that budget or she does it in her own office, but with her department heads. I mean, that's entirely her prerogative if that's how she wants to create the budget. The fact that we've had a budget committee. I mean, I've sat in that office for hours and hours and hours. Dredging through the things that need to be dredged through in order to create a balanced budget. And sometimes it's unpleasant to say, hey, department head, we need to do something different than your proposal. We just don't have the money for that. At the end of the day, though, that's the mayor's job. That's the mayor's responsibility to create that budget, whatever it may be. And if the mayor chooses to use a group of confidants or whatever, then that's the mayor's prerogative. That's just my view. The city council does have the obligation to question what's in that budget, and be able to discern a capital improvement line. What exactly is that? Is that a lawnmower? Is it a truck? Is it a refrigerator? Is it a printer? I mean, what are we talking about? But again, in my view, it's the mayor's obligation to present a budget. How she comes up with that budget, or how the mayor comes up with that budget, I mean, that's their prerogative at this point in time, in my opinion.
The point, Kevin, is once the mayor puts together that budget, it's then how it is presented in terms of the council. We all should receive the same input, the same equity, the same information. We all should be able to hear from all those department heads, not just a few select few, but everybody. We're all elected. We all swore the same things. We are all representing the people, not just a few people. So I don't think it's right that a couple people get double input and other people get single input. She can do whatever she wants to do in terms of putting together that. This takes place once the budget is presented. How do we as a council
handle it from there. In other cities and other places, the department heads come up and we all would have the same opportunities to ask the same questions of department heads to get the same information, just as Councilmember Harmon is saying. Right now, we don't have that. And that is our right under state law.
Mayor,
Sir?
I have the floor for a minute.
Yes.
I think we're treading on a little dangerous ground here, as Marina said, and I like what you said, Marina, about Mayor Harmon did it this way. Mayor Young has done it another way. Every mayor has the right to choose how they want to work the budget, as Kevin said. They get the department heads together. That's their job to come up, and her job to define what that budget's going to be. It's our job to either approve or disapprove the budget. That we should meet together, and we do meet together. I've been on the budget committee myself, and I don't want to disagree just openly and outwardly here, but I'm going to say this: it was never a closed meeting. I've never been to a closed budget meeting ever. It was open to whoever wanted to come. There just wasn't a lot of room, and I think that needs to be addressed, and I think the time frame needs to be adjusted. But other than that, it's really strictly the mayor's responsibility to present a budget to the city council. Period.
It's a pleasure.
What would prevent? I'm sorry. What would prevent the department heads, coming to the council meeting? I mean, at the council meeting and answering questions about their portion of the budget. I mean, I don't think there's anything that would preclude that or stop that. I mean,
I think what most cities are doing, which is not a bad idea for us to do, the county does the same thing. They meet prior to, just as this proposed has, at 5 o'clock to allow some time to go.
Like a workshop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Brian actually got.
But I guarantee you, it's already been, my job by December 1st is to submit a balanced budget. And it's a balance that I'm going to meet with the department heads, however many times it takes, and get the needs thought out during the day-to-day operations, and they have a good idea of what we need. And then we bring that forward by December 1st. Now, there's no problem having a workshop or meeting early at 5 o'clock, if that's what people wants to do.
A workshop is a good idea.
Ordinance has been read one time. There's not a motion. It will go to the November agenda. Mayor, that's the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is economic development update. Ms. Colleen Carr.
Good evening. I will be quick. Just a quick update on what's going on in this last quarter. Towards the end of the third quarter, I was going to give you a little history on the leads I've worked. Again, my focus is continuing to be retail, and I've continued to go after grocery stores, restaurants, and other retail businesses, trying to increase our tax in the city, and then, or A&P gathering in the city. And then I have also worked on 2 projects that were manufacturing projects that were that I heard about through our partnership with the Metro Little Rock Regional Alliance. As often happens, we weren't a good fit for them, but I worked it through to see if we had the space, and we didn't. I have been on a recruiting trip. We've worked with the company. We've gone out and met them, and then invited them back to Sherwood. We've had a really good response from them. We're really hoping that we'll be able to announce soon that we have an answer to a lot of prayers for this area. So we're working hard on that. Then, let's see, I've worked with 4 of the developments that are breaking ground right now. I've worked hands-on with them to make sure they had the things they need or answer the questions they had. And then I've also got another one breaking ground in early 2020, spring of 2020, that I'm hoping to be working closely with as well. Vision 2040 meetings have been going on. I've been staying involved in those, interjecting my opinions, and we've all worked together to kind of lay out a good, I think, vision for development in Sherwood for the 2040 vision. We are, where it comes to workforce and development, there is a project coming out of the Little Rock Regional Chamber that's called Board Next Generation Learning, and it's a concept where you have academies in schools, and this will be presented to the Pulaski County Special School District to be adopted. I think they're going to try to adopt it even in I think they've moved it to 2021, but they talked about 2020. And so we're staying deeply involved in those discussions. Sherwood would be given certain academies. These would be in Sylvan Hills High School and junior high. And so we're making sure we stay involved to make sure those academies are what meet the needs of Sherwood. So that's taking up a lot of time, but I think it's a good time. And ultimately, that's our workforce. We're training our kids up. We want them to be able to stay here and work here and live here. I've also continued to work with our larger companies. We try to touch base, chat, check with them every 2 or 3 months. I just finished up an IEDCE conference, an International Economic Development Conference. This last month, next month, I'll be heading to training with National Rural Economic Development. And to give you a quick update on the entertainment district, we're doing a lot of talking and thinking and listening. We will have something to say back to you in the spring of 2020. So pause, and I will follow up with that. We are hosting a FAM tour. It's a familiarity tour with some site selectors that are coming to the central Little Rock region. And that tour will be November 7th and 8th. And that if you're not familiar with the familiarity tour, they just come in town, we show them our assets, explain what's happening, and then we're going to be involved in that. So, and I have one announcement. You say it. You may have already known, but Holiday Inn Express will be breaking ground spring of 2020.
Thank you. Old business?
Yes, Mayor. Brought up the audio, video cameras. I'm asking that we have signage up. I feel like it's the most ethical thing to do to let our public know that they're under both video and audio surveillance. So if they step outside to have what they think is a private call, or if they're having a private conversation with somebody, that they have that notification.
Signage is already up. It's been out a long time as you enter the premises property.
Are they up in all the locations?
I don't know about all the locations, but I know it is here at City Hall. It's been up for quite some time.
Well, I would be asked that it would be at all the locations, please.
Any more old business?
And also along those lines, after having received from a citizen the purchase orders for that new camera system, I asked that we not be splitting up purchase orders in order to avoid it going before the city council in the future. I know that you said at the last meeting that, this is done all the time, but this is not what is recommended.
That was not in response to splitting the purchase orders. Is there any more old business? New business? Way of announcements. Animal shelter events, October Adopt a Shelter Dog, $25 adoptions. Happy Halloween, you can have free options on October 31st. Sherwood Halloween Carnival will be October 31st, 6 to 8 this year at Sherwood Forest. Mayor's Youth Council Halloween Haunted House is October 30th, 7 to 10 p.m. and October 31st, 7 to 10:30 p.m. also at Sherwood Forest. Are there any more announcements?
Move we adjourn.